Well, hey, it's Dave from the How to Podcast series. I hope you're doing wonderful. It's the end of December, the end of the year. Oh my gosh. And we are wrapping up December in style with your responses to the question of the month for December, all around the idea of, hey, what is your favorite episode of your own podcast? Now, I know that sounds a little, like self-serving a little bit. Hey, let's talk about me on my own show. But I want people to come and fall in love with your show and fall in love with you. So the idea is just, if I'm a new listener of your podcast and I'm coming to listen to your show for the first time, where would you say I should start? So what was your favorite podcast episode on your own show this year? So we can send people there. Listen, there's people that are desperately looking for a reason to sneak out of the family function right now. Uncle Stan is going on politics, and Aunt Ruth over there is being really critical about how dry the turkey is this year, and you're looking for an escape. If I could just get out of here and listen to a podcast or fall in love with a new podcast, then this would be the perfect time for me to press play on your podcast. So take me away from this family function as I am trying to navigate the fun times of being together with family. So here on the How to Podcast series, we're all about opening the doors and showing you other podcasts to fall in love with. So some of my favorite friends and listeners of the show have responded, and I'm so grateful, to point you in the direction of another podcast. Yes, I'm telling you to leave this show and go listen to these other shows and the episodes they're shouting out for 2024 as a great episode that they're really proud of. There's something special about it, and they wanted you to know. So here they are to share their favorite episode from 2024 here on the How to Podcast series. You ready for some new shows? Here we go.
Welcome. You've got mail.
Hi, I'm David Beckmeyer, host of the Outrage Overload podcast, where we explore the roots of outrage and offer strategies to stay calm in a polarized world. To answer the question of the month for December, what was your favorite podcast episode on your show this year? The episode I'm choosing is a bonus episode I released in May called America on the Knife's Edge. It was a major milestone for me because it was my first ever full-scale audio documentary episode. And I get that nobody really wants to talk about politics and elections right now, but this episode wasn't just about the 2024 election we just had. It tackled the bigger picture, the broader political landscape, the role of swing voters, the implications of the electoral college system, and the reality of a nation so deeply divided that our elections hang on a knife's edge. So I used this device. I used the 2008 comedy, movie as a narrative trick. The 2008 comedy Swing Vote, and that was starring Kevin Costner as kind of a framing device. And if you're not familiar with the movie, it tells the story of Bud, played by Costner, a guy who's not particularly interested in politics, but through an improbable set of events ends up being the deciding vote in a presidential election. And I thought this was the perfect metaphor for the role swing voters and individual decisions play in our deeply divided political system. That framing device helped me illustrate some of the absurdities and high stakes of our current electoral system. But, I'm telling you, this episode was a monumental task for me. It basically took me months to do. I came up with a concept, and then came up with an outline and a story arc. Spent months, kind of researching what experts might make, good sound bites for this and could be provide information that would be useful to the episode. I had to convince them to participate. I then had to conduct all those interviews and, of course, ultimately had to weave it all together. And, of course, I learned a lot through that process. I had a lot of guidance from advisors, like including a renowned documentary filmmaker. But in the end, I did all the hands-on work myself, from the interviews to that final edit. And I'll tell you a little secret. There are parts of the episode that I consider a failure. My goal was for the content to tell the story entirely on its own, But, based on the feedback and testing with those advisors, I realized, I needed to add a short prologue, which I consider a failure, to set the stage, and an epilogue to sort of tie it all in a bow. Despite that, though, I'm still pretty proud of that final product. And it's more than just an analysis of the 2024 election. It's a broader exploration of the forces shaping all of American democracy. It was intended, to help people set some realistic expectations for the election, as well as build some resilience to whatever the outcome may be, as well as, of course, it's a call for unity in these divided times. Anyway, America on the Knife's Edge represents some of the best storytelling I've done on the podcast to date, and I'd love to get your feedback on it. It's something that I do want to do more of, but these things do take a long time, so I don't know how many I can do each year, but I do hope to do more of these kind of style of episodes. But yeah, if you're able to listen to it and give some feedback, like I said, I know a lot of people don't really want to hear about politics right now, but hopefully it's a larger context and makes some sense. Anyway, take care, and everybody have a great holiday.
Hi, Dave. It's Zeest Khan from the Long COVID MD podcast. I'm recording on my phone, and I hope the audio is okay. The podcast audio is certainly better. I'm answering the December question of the month, which is, what's my favorite podcast episode of my own podcast from 2024? And that is episode 21, which is called How to Spot Long COVID Pseudoscience. I'm a physician who's been medically disabled by long COVID after working on the front lines of my community hospitals in 2020. And there has been a lot of misinformation and disinformation about COVID and about long COVID. And so I spent some time trying to explain on that podcast episode some of the tricks or the characteristics of pseudoscience. And I really want not only to inform my listeners about biology, about medicine, but also how to interpret information and learn how to trust what you're reading, seeing, and taking in. So that's Long COVID MD, my podcast and passion project, episode 21, How to Spot Long COVID Pseudoscience. It is very similar to ways to spot lies in pseudoscience in a lot of other fields too. Thanks for helping us out, Dave, with everything that you do. And hi to everybody. Happy New Year.
Hi, Dave. This is Bill Monty from Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older and Tales from South Florida, responding to your question of the month. What is your favorite episode of your podcast that you released in the last year? Well, I have 2 podcasts, Dave, so that's like asking me to pick my favorite child. And picking my favorite child would be easier because I only have one. But let me just say, for Tales from South Florida, I think you should listen to Growing Up in South Florida. It's a great jumping off point for what the entire podcasting series is about and gives you a really good glimpse of my life growing up here. It's a great gateway to finding out what the other episodes are all about. For Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older, where Season 2 has been all about life lessons. And we started that off with an episode called One Day. And that's where I think you should start if you want to learn a little bit about what life can teach you as you age. And remember, this is a podcast not about being old, but about getting older. Hey, Dave, thanks for the opportunity to speak to you and your audience. And I want to just take this moment to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday. No matter which holiday you celebrate, may it be filled with peace and love and the warmth of family and friends. Thanks, Dave. See you Saturday.
So I'll jump on here too and add my 2 cents to the question of the month. Thank you, everybody, for responding. Appreciate it. Next month, I'm encouraging you to do the same and share your podcast voice and your answer to the question and tell people about your show by being part of the question of the month. This is for you. I want to help you with your show. So I will tell you from How to Podcast series, one of the episodes that I'm pretty happy with and excited to share with you, especially if you're new here and you haven't heard all the episodes. Episode 76, How to Deal with a Hater. 6 different ways that you can deal with a hater. And as we put ourselves out into the world, sometimes we'll get some feedback that's not so nice, not so kind. So how can you deal with that? So that's probably the best episode of the How to Podcast series to date that has happened, and the best response from the audience so far. So if you haven't heard that episode yet, episode 76, there'll be links to all of the episodes mentioned in the show notes. So please go click all the links and go listen to the end of each episode so that you can hear what we were all sharing today on the How to Podcast series, end of the year, question of the month for December. So episode 76 of the How to Podcast series. I'd love for you to listen to it if you haven't listened. And if you have, maybe go back and listen again. So thank you for listening to the How to Podcast series. Whether this is your first episode or your hundreds of episodes that you've listened to the show. This show is all about you. This show is all about helping you with your podcast. And as we wrap up 2024, I just wanted to say thank you. Like, truly. You could listen to a number of other podcasts about podcasting. There are some amazing ones out there. There's really some amazing people in this space that I truly admire for how they show up in life and how they really put their listeners forward. We agree on something, that your message is meaningful and that we want you to podcast. And we'll be there to support you. There's some other shows, we'll just leave this alone. They're not as great as far as encouraging you on your journey of podcasting. So we want to squish the bad with the good. We want to put more good into the world this year and into 2025 to encourage you on your journey as a podcaster. Now, if you're looking for community in 2025, as you start your show, as you grow your show, come and join us on our meetups. We get together on a regular basis with other podcasters. We talk podcasting. We get into some of the questions that are challenging you in your show, whether it's making money with your show, growing your show, the technology behind podcasting, the resources that you need to improve as a podcaster, and then just being in the room virtually with people who are just like you so that we can support each other as we grow as podcasters, as we grow our show, and as we improve. Come and join us on our meetups. We'd love to have you there. You can always find that at howtopodcast.ca. The other side of this, I would love to have time with you over the holidays into 2025. There's always a calendar link in the show notes of this episode, and there's also a calendar link on my website. And that's just for you, so that you and I can get together, talk podcasting, talk about your show, and know that there's a guy named Dave in Ontario, Canada, that believes in you. And I believe that we can do great things together, and I can't wait to work with you in 2025. Thanks for listening. Happy holidays, and catch you in the new year. Take care.